Good.
Okay, good afternoon. We're going to call to order the April 25th, 2023 Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting. For those who have not been here before, we usually hear two types of cases. I don't think we have any appeals tonight. But the other types of cases are variances and special permits. Anybody who plans on speaking on the record tonight, I would like to swear you in as a group so that when you come forward, you can just say you're sworn in and go ahead with your testimony. So if you know that you're planning on speaking tonight, if you could raise your right hand. You stand. Do you promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Thank you. So applicants will have 5 minutes to state their case, and then if there are those in the audience that want to speak for or against the application, you will be each given 3 minutes. There are only 3 members of the board present tonight, and a yes vote requires 3 votes. So you would need to convince all 3 of us for your application to be approved. We usually indicate our positions as we're dialoguing with you. And so if you feel that it's not going to go your way, you could ask for tabling and then come back and try to get us when we have 5 members present. So I think there are some preliminary matters do we have a special presentation, and if there's anything else?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We do have 2 preliminary matters. The first is a reconsideration, which will be followed by a policy memo, and we'll give you some details about the policy matter in just a second. Okay, Dan's going to go over the reconsideration.
Yeah, so the reconsideration is for case BZA 22-166. The address was 897 Locke Avenue. It was a large detached garage behind a primary structure. It was previously denied. However, the applicant has worked with their agent to reduce the number of variances they're requesting. They have gotten it down to just a variance for reducing the side yard setback from 3 feet to 2 feet.
Okay.
So a considerable reduction in the variances that they're looking for. The agent for the applicant is here to formally request that rehearing.
Okay. Can you come forward? I don't know. Okay, thank you. Oh, I forgot to mention that there are sign-in sheets at the desk. So at some point, we would like for you to print or write legibly as best you can your name. That would help the court reporter with spelling. And if the mics are not on, sir, you can press the button so that you see the green light. Okay, can you state your name, whether you're sworn in?
I'm Jack Williams. I am the agent for the owners of 897 Locke Avenue. When we were in here previously, it was a garage that was built on the back of the property. They had 990 square feet construction. And the owner has agreed to reduce that to 704 square feet. Everything else, I think we've agreed to.
Yep. And the reduction to the size of the garage, that would bring it into compliance. So the size would not be an issue. It would just be that side yard setback at this point.
So we're voting tonight on whether to hear the case again. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to hear it again.
Second,
Okay, motion's been seconded. Please call the roll.
Ms. Egelhoff,
yes.
Mr. Malaka?
Yes.
Chair Palmgren?
Yes, we hear your case when the city gets the notices out.
Okay, next month.
I don't know if it'll be next month. It just depends on when you can get all your things with them.
We're probably looking at,
Little
June, I
louder.
believe.
Little louder.
Sorry, we're probably looking at June, I believe, so we can get it through staff viewing through the area commission again.
End of June,
Probably
Okay.
June.
as long as it's not my vacation. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Mhm.
Okay, and now we have a policy item. It's a zoning code update. Kevin Wheeler with the Department of Development and Tony Calabrese, the Deputy Director of Building and Zoning Services, are gonna present a progress presentation to the Board of Zoning Adjustment on the zoning code update. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Hello, gentlemen.
Evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and walk through the presentation.
Okay,
Tony can help me answer any questions that you guys have. I think you probably have you're already aware of this project at some level and know that we haven't updated our zoning code comprehensively in 70 years. And as Columbus looks at our future, we're just recognizing that the code isn't in a position to get us where we need to go. And this slide these are images of Intel, the Honda LG battery plant, BBI Logistics and Hyperion. And this is why Columbus's population growth continues. Our economy is strong. I think a lot of times when you're talking to folks who are like, where are these people coming from? They're coming here because of the jobs in the economy. I think, as we have been over the past 5 years or so, really trying to focus more attention on how we manage growth. We're looking at, how do we improve transit through LinkUs and the partnership there with CODA, Franklin County and Morpsey. We have been working, the mayor has prioritized, council has prioritized a housing strategy and really working with our regional partners to address the housing shortage. We're looking at how do we prepare our city for a climate that's changing, how do we make sure that we're more resilient. We've looked at Inside 2050. That's a work that we were involved in, or an effort that we were involved in with our regional partners, and sort of ask these big picture questions of how do we grow as a region, what makes sense, how can we sustain that, and then finally zone in. Zone in is just a recognition that the zoning code is one of the pieces of this puzzle. So I won't belabor this slide. Probably you're already familiar with this, but we did an assessment in 2021 of our current code and came away with 5 key findings. And really, none of them would surprise you, but the summation of it was that the zoning code doesn't support our community's aspiration to be an equitable, thriving city. And a lot of that comes down to things like, are we building enough housing? Are we supporting transit? Are we providing options for folks to invest in the neighborhood? Are we making it easier for small scale builders, developers, and homeowners and business owners to engage? Next. So, city's 225 square miles, 290,000 parcels. So where do you start? This is a big, complicated city. It's a complex code. And so you can't do everything at once. And our work really is focusing initially on the corridors. These are the areas that we feel we have the most chance, or the best chance, to really make an impact in the short term in terms of housing supply, job options, and transit. These are the main streets of our community. These are, the places where our community plans recognize the importance of mixed use and density. And, ideally, not always, but, they are or can be pedestrian friendly, bikeable, walkable. They're environmentally sustainable. We have services and infrastructure there. So there are a lot of reasons that these areas make sense to focus our attention early on. The current zoning, however, presents a lot of barriers. And, this is a board that is uniquely aware of what that can be about. And so we want to be looking at these things. I think, the picture on the upper right is River and Riff, which is in Franklinton. It's a mixed use project. It's fairly new. The image on the lower right was taken by Kojo Kamano, for those of you who may remember Kojo. That's Mount Vernon Avenue in 1960. representing a level of activity and vibrance that frankly, we kind of wish that we had today. And so I think one of the things that we want to remind folks is that this isn't a new thing, to have these main streets be our focus. So the code update will focus attention on housing and commercial uses, as well as standards for building design and parking, and all the things that really go into making development. Which corridors? We said we want to start with corridors. Which ones? So we took a look at a number of factors. Where do we have link us corridors that are being planned for the future? Where does CODA serve currently? What corridors do they serve? Where do we have adopted plan language that supports mixed use or higher density residential and commercial? Where do we have commercial zoning overlays? That's kind of a good proxy for areas that the base code isn't working in, because we had to come in and provide these overlays. That adds complexity, but it's a one way to address the underlying code challenges. We looked at the existing zoning, and then we looked at site level considerations. Some areas it didn't make sense because maybe they've gone through a comprehensive zoning recently, or OSU, we don't control OSU, places like that. Some of the areas were just too small to make sense. Next one, please. So this map depicts the areas that kind of emerged, the focus corridors and nodes that emerged. This is a starting place. This is not a proposal. We don't have a zoning proposal at this point, but we are starting in these areas. These areas represent a synthesis of policy. These are places where our land use plan and citywide policies tell us that we want to focus attention, and then the existing conditions. We need to do a lot more analysis of these areas and have a lot more community engagement before we're ready to come back and say, hey, these are the specific ideas that we want to move forward. Again, this is one of the few groups that may not be surprised by these numbers. 140, it's actually close to 145 miles of corridor, if we count both sides. 11,500 parcels are in these areas. They are covered by 32 area plans and dozens of base zoning districts. There are in place currently within these areas 1,000 variances. I think roughly half BCA and half council variances. Again, this is an indication base code isn't working very well. But zonings are just a part of almost every significant project. 35% of these corridors have a height limit at the frontage of 35 feet. That's the same as our single family neighborhoods. In the 1920s, when we first adopted zoning, our height limit, the lowest height limit was 50 feet. It was a lot higher for many of these corridor sections. So that's a challenge for us. 80% of these corridors also have a zoning category which either prohibits outright residential or it limits it to the second and subsequent floors. And with the height limit and the parking requirements, it makes it often very difficult to actually make a project work. So again, current code, current districts within these areas, really challenging to navigate. Next slide, please. So almost done with the presentation, just where we're at, next steps. We will again be using the remainder of this year, doing a lot of additional analysis. We'll be talking with the community. We have a series of community conversations that we are publicizing. They're going to be focused on key topics like housing, main streets, what we mean by that, development, business, etc. We will have a series of community workshops later in the summer that will dig even deeper into these issues and trade-offs associated with changing zoning. We have an advisory committee that we meet with once a month, and those folks help us sort of give us advice about how to engage the community, give us kind of an early reaction to some of the things that we're exploring. And so we benefited from that group. We're working very hard in this effort to try to reach groups that we don't often hear from. I think that when we look at, who comes to our BZA meeting, who comes to our council zoning agendas and so on, often we're not hearing from younger people, we're not hearing from renters, we're not hearing from minority neighborhoods. in the way that we would like to. And so this isn't about not hearing from anyone, it's just about maybe finding ways to broaden our. I want to emphasize, I think folks recognize this on this committee, but any code changes will require notice. City council will make the ultimate decision. And we anticipate coming forward next year with specific proposals for the community to react to. And then beyond this first phase focused on the corridor into other parts of the city, we'll be looking more at the neighborhoods, some of the commercial and industrial zones and so on. Next slide, please. Our website's probably the easiest way to learn more about the project. We have all the public events information on how to engage and how to engage tab. There's a webinar that was videotaped from last week that you can watch. There's a way to sign up for more information and ping us with questions if you have any. And we also, maybe particularly important, have an interactive map that allows you to drill down onto the specific parcels that we're including in this focus area. And those parcels are, in a few cases, they may go a little beyond the corridor, but by and large, they are corridor specific parcels. I think that's it, Danefield. Okay, I'm going to stop, and then again, Tony and I will do our best to get questions or comments. Thank you.
When do you interview us?
This is part of that process. I think if you,
What is this?
this is to make you aware of this. I think if there are ways that you want to engage in this process, we'd love to hear about that.
Oh, no, we were told in the very beginning that you were going to interview us.
We can make that happen.
I mean, it just makes sense. And I know you've interviewed with zoning attorneys, so.
We interviewed the chair of BZA at the time. We only had so much capacity in the assessment process to do interviews, and so we had to be strategic. This was the prior.
I don't,
Well,
no.
I've been.
She's been the chair since we've started talking about zoning.
Were you?
I'm
either way,
Yeah.
move forward. We'll put something together on the books and sit down with you all individually and get feedback and some discussions back and forth if you would like to.
I think it
Bet
makes
you-
sense.
I know you do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Other questions?
What is the timeline? So I heard you say next year, kind of rolling out proposals to get dialogue on. What's the timeline after that?
So really, timeline's going to depend on a couple things. It's sort of what we're, there are two factors here. We've got to update the code, which is, the actual zoning code itself, and then there's the map. And the map, if we actually change districts on the ground, that's a pretty involved process. So the timing, I think, really is going to depend on how folks are receiving the updated proposals, how we're able to kind of prioritize areas and logistically. So it's kind of a difficult thing to be super specific about yet. But I think we recognize that if we update the code and add districts, that doesn't really help us unless we're seeing those districts apply on the map. Otherwise, they're just conceptual ideas, or they're more than ideas, but they're not in place. So we want to see as many of these areas benefit from modernized zoning as we can.
So also, it looked like the heat map that you had where you said you were focused on certain corridors. I saw Livingston Avenue, Cleveland Avenue, et cetera. Did you choose those areas because that's where you see the most zoning variance requests?
So in the booklet, and we'll get you a copy of the booklet that was shared when folks walked in, we chose those areas. If you go back a slide or two, Dane. Okay, I guess the wrong way. Put it forward. Sorry. Okay, back now. There. So this slide and this report sort of walks you through how we chose these areas to start with.
Oh, I did hear that. I'm sorry. I heard that.
Okay.
So I guess, one of the things that you spoke to, one of the reasons why this is so important is because it's a huge impediment to development. And a lot of development is taking place outside of those areas that you've described. So I think, I'm just thinking here, if you were to address that where you have housing developments going into place, because there were a lot of areas that you didn't have highlighted that are Columbus outside of the core, if that was in place and those developments could be facilitated much easier, you might see more affordable housing going up faster. Everybody doesn't want to live in the core of the city.
Sure.
And I think, not that we want to keep our jobs, but we do a pretty good job addressing variance requests as they relate to things in the core, the urban core of the city. So one of my recommendations would be to say, there may be some need to focus outside of that so that you could support the affordable housing efforts in general, where there's a huge impediment to the development.
And I appreciate that. We've heard that perspective a number of times. I think the reason that we're starting with the corridors, and I totally appreciate the fact that not everybody wants to live on the corridor. But the reason that we're starting, among the reasons that we're starting on the corridor is because that is where the neighborhood plans that we've worked with communities on all have the most consistent guidance. I think as you move further into the neighborhoods, that policy foundation is not as strong. And so we can talk to folks who live in different neighborhoods across the city and hear from them. Yeah, this is where we want to see more activity in our neighborhood, but there are impediments. And I think we appreciate the fact that this board works really well, staff works really well. But we also don't have a real sense of the projects that don't get done because of the barriers that are present. And we see over and over again where the need for folks to go through a variance process, to go through a rezoning process can be a challenge for folks that don't have the means or sophistication to navigate it. And that could be both the applicant and the neighborhood that might be maybe trying to engage in a process that's really, kind of weighted on the back end when people are proposing things as opposed to maybe helping to set the table in front of it. But your point's critical that we can't stop at the corridors.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, this has been helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep us posted on the progress. Okay, I misspoke. We do have 4 members of our board here tonight, so you just increased your chances. Right, or not. Okay, so we'll get on with our agenda for tonight. Case number 1, 3310, 3316A, Refugee Road. Will the applicant please come forward?
Oops. (3310 3316) Refugee Road is located on the north side of Refugee Road, approximately 600 feet from Winchester Pike. It is known to M Manufacturing and is part of the Mid-East Area Commission. The 3.06 acre site is developed with a 1,400 square foot maintenance garage, an office with on-site parking, and salvage vehicle storage to the rear of the site. Surrounding uses are a bingo hall to the west, a skating rink to the east, commercial buildings to the south, and an industrial truck terminal to the north. The applicant proposes to use a portion of the parcel for salvage vehicles. A special permit is being requested to allow for salvage in an area zoned with manufacturing. Variances are being requested to reduce the side yard storage setback from 20 feet to 5 feet and do not provide a hard surface, wheel stop devices, parking lot shading, and striping. Planning is generally supportive of the requested landscape screening and special permit variances, but it has no comment on requested striping and marking, wheel stop device, parking service, and storage vehicle. Planning request additional landscaping and screening along the Refugee Road frontage. C2P2 guidelines
Recommend a high level of landscaping and screening should be provided between the right of way and parking lot. Screening should include a combination of the following items: walls, mounds, trees, shrubs, and landscaping. Staff encourage the applicant to consult with the city forester on new street trees along the Redwood Road frontage. The applicant recently got a right-of-way dedication exception approval, and thus all comments from the Division of Traffic Management have been resolved. The Northeast Area Commission recommends approval of the request, but they approved all variances except for 33.6.3.41, which is the reduction of the minimum distance from the lot line to the south storage area from 20 feet to 5 feet. And Mr. Richmond talks about this, but I believe the reason they said no was because they didn't want any salvage vehicles parked in the front of the building. We are suggesting a condition that will resolve that. So we are recommending approval. Staff can recommend approval as the proposed variances are to legitimize the existing conditions of the site. Staff note that the proposed variances are compatible with surrounding area, and the applicant has resolved all comments with both the Division of Parking Service and the Division of Traffic Management. The conditions we are requesting is that the site plan be stamped to memorialize the additional landscaping and screening along the Refugee Road frontage. And it will also show that the storage will only be allowed in the site. For the record, it's the East Area Commission.
Okay. What is a, wheel stop device?
Those bylaws.
Concrete buffer that won't let you pull up forward.
Ah, okay. Okay, can you state your names and whether or not you were sworn in?
Lynn Edelman.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir.
Can you move the mic closer to you, sir? That'd be helpful.
Lynn Edelman.
Okay, were you sworn in? Were you sworn in earlier? Did you testify about? Okay, let me ask him.
And my name is Michael Ridge. I'm his engineer for the site.
Okay, were you sworn in?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I can swear you both in. Raise your right hand. You promise that the testimony you give tonight be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Okay. Who wants to speak first?
We were talking about the parking blocks, and I just thought I'd, tell everybody the situation out there. They have bingo parking. There's bingo next door, and they have police directed parking. And I was talking to the police officer who does the directing. He's an off-duty city of Columbus, and he goes that they would be in the way. It's kind of similar to what you have at the Ohio State Fair. There's no blocks there, and I think you go to Disney Resort, it's police directed when it's real crowded, and so the police officer said that the blocks would be in the way.
Okay.
I heard Adam mention about the if I get too ahead of everything, I'm just not familiar with this, so I apologize, but he was talking about salvage in the front. And when we met with Mac, the commission for the east side, I think that they said that they had complained about the area too, about parking in the front. And then I established with their presence, we met on site in June of last year. And actually, that's the neighbor's property. If you look at the property, can you spin that to where they show? But if you look at the site, if you look at the Franklin County, you had some exhibits before that actually showed the property lines. There's a little parcel there to the east that the gentleman there who owns the property, he has junk cars in the front, and there was a very tall fence there that surrounded their property. And I think that there was a misunderstanding with the local board, commissioners, of whose property that was.
Gotcha.
And I think we ironed that out. There you go. You see that little piece up there to the top right? Yeah. This is owned by somebody else, and they do have junk cars in the front there.
Okay.
And they do have a 6-foot fence with barbed wire on the front there.
Wow.
But was this a code violation then? So that's what this is here for.
Yeah, so I mean, they misunderstood that as being our property. We don't have the fence there. They have a fence bounding their property.
So I do have a question. So
Yeah.
the lot behind the next door, WBT Truck Repair,
Which one?
it's to the east or west of you.
West. Oh, this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
So
there's
there's
actually a
a,
piece in between though, right? You know, there's like a 10 or 20-foot piece.
but there's a shared drive between the two.
That's
That's the only way you can get to that parcel.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
yeah. They're all owned by the same owner.
But they don't have any of the, there's no code violation for the other lot, which has similar issues? Am I wrong?
Not his lot, well, they have similar issues there, but it was identified as being our property by the local commission, like that. It's the upper right side. If you go look at Google Earth, you'll see a bunch of cars from that building. If you zoom in, well, that's not, you can't see it, but if you go to Google Earth, their image there, they show a lot of cars in the front.
Well, I'm not referring to that. I'm referring to the back of the lot.
Yeah, there's trucks back there.
You're asking why didn't they get a violation, the neighbor?
Well, again, it's a shared use drive, right? And it's owned by who?
Lynn.
JJR Enterprises.
So we're.
It-
This is the.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying in the back there? I'm not sure if I'm bringing up something that just doesn't make sense to bring up, but
The whole
it
thing.
seems like it's all one parcel because it's a one drive. How can one side of it be fixed?
Well, the junk and salvage yard requires a license and it's inspected annually. And
Okay,
it could be during this annual inspection is when the violations occurred. It could be in a month that we see this guy.
got it. So that is a repair shop versus a junk and salvage.
Correct.
And you see the cars there in the photo there to the right, take your cursor to the right. far
Yeah,
right.
let me see.
There, that's not the property in question, but that's what the local commission thought was.
Well, code enforcement wouldn't operate on what they thought it was. Code enforcement knows what's what.
Oh, that could be, but,
He's talking about
but
the vote admitting.
when I was in discussion with everyone, you know, we were talking about a very tall fence and we don't have a fence in the front. So I don't know who checked what or what. All I know is we don't have a fence in the front.
So I also want to know, so because you're attached without any kind of border, was there proposed wheel stops between you and the bingo place? Why would the police say it's in the way? Is that where the police stop or the?
Well, Lynn would have to talk about, the bingo is in the property next door, okay?
Right.
But they park over on this property that we're.
Well, that's not a reason for us to not require wheel stops for somebody else's convenience.
Well, it was for the
It's not even
convenience of the type of parking that they do there. And also there's truck traffic that goes to the back. That when there's no bingo, there's truck traffic that follows.
I hear everything you're saying, but the lines are blurred literally between you and the parcel next door. We're focused on your parcel, is that correct? We're looking at what's happening on his parcel.
Correct.
So I'm looking at a defined line between you and the bingo hall. And you're saying, I don't understand where the conversation about wheel stops needs to be omitted.
Maybe I can explain that.
Please do.
So, bingo operates 3 days a week.
On which property?
Next door.
Bingo is a building to the west, but they use the parking lot to the east.
They use your parking lot.
It's all one parcel.
Well,
No,
no,
it's not.
Well,
it can't be one parcel.
it's one joint owner, which is JJR Enterprises.
Okay. But, okay, so let me pause. So I get that it's one owner that owns all that, but when we come here, we have to really separate each piece of property and the activities are happening on a property,
Okay.
right?
So,
So they're parking on the property that's at the subject of this variance. But the operation, they're going into a building on another parcel, is that what's happening?
So, the building to the west is where Bingo operates. That's the building they operate out of. Their parking is the property, the subject property. So that's to the east. What you're suggesting is parking blocks in that area where Bingo would park?
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm saying that you're asking for relief from it, and I'm asking, where would it go? I don't know, it doesn't appear to me in any of these examples or drawings that it should separate between you and the Bingo lot. So I'm asking, why do you need relief from it?
Why do we need relief from the parking blocks?
Yes,
Okay, and I was getting to that.
thanks.
So behind Bingo in the same building is a truck repair entity. And for the trucks to come in and out of their entity, they need to use the parking lot where Bingo parks, but Bingo only parks in the evenings on 3 days a week. So during the day and the evenings that Bingo isn't in operation, the trucks, semi-trucks, big semi-trucks, come into the lot and swing around and pull into the back where WBT operates.
Isn't that where you're, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
Isn't that where you're proposing to store the salvage vehicles?
No, that would be behind the building on the east. There's actually two buildings on that.
So the same reason for the parking stops is the reason why you can't stripe it either?
There's the circle.
I don't think you can come up here, but thank you for trying.
You can go to that.
Yeah.
What's that? Okay, so what you have here is, this is not very on the, that's on here, let's see, this is the other property. So, this, you see it, you can't, there's a fence right here, and this right in here is the salvage storage right in here, okay? See that line there? Okay, so here is the Bingo area here.
Bingo area, meaning
Bingo
building or
park
parking?
area.
Okay.
Okay, so the Bingo parking area, this back here is the truck storage here. Rear. This truck storage they have here in this building here, they have a repair service for trucks, remember right there? And so what happens is the trucks come in and they park here while they're waiting for service, I guess, right? And on certain days of the week, this is where they have the Bingo here, you have your Bingo offices actually here, correct?
No, yeah.
Sure.
Sorry. I don't want this to get real confused.
It's already very confusing.
Yeah, this is pretty basic, really.
What level site?
The Bingo's in this white area right here, I think, in this building.
That's different, yeah, it's on the screen.
It
This
is.
is where the Bingo actually operates, which is where they call BINGO.
Right.
Right. This is where their customers park over here.
Even parking.
Yeah. This is a truck repair facilities in this corner. And they use this area back here to store their trucks for repair. This area right here, said was Bingo, but in the back of this.
Something extra.
Remove.
We're looking for a
Oh,
different site plan.
They did that.
This is Bingo right here.
Right?
This part here is another truck repair operation. This is WBT. He has this area here plus this area back here where he stores trucks. With the trucks to get back here, they have to go down this driveway, and the smaller ones can just swing in. The bigger ones have to swing around to go in. And if you put parking blocks in here, they aren't going to be able to enter into his area. Also, I don't understand, I personally don't understand the need for the parking blocks because they have policemen on duty that show all the customers from Bingo where to park.
Let me explain to you. we're not here on the bingo operation. We're here on your proposal. So we're looking at parking for your proposal, nothing to do with bingo. So he's not going to be there for your part, your proposal. You understand?
I don't.
Okay, everything that's here, this is your proposal for your site and your parcel. It may be owned by one person, and he's looking at it just like it's one big piece of land. We're trying to create, and I don't even see what is the designated area for the salvage yard?
Everything that's marked gravel.
So here's the salvage yard this is the area that we don't own right here. And the salvage yard is fenced in this area here.
Okay. And you say you don't own it?
No, he didn't.
On the front right here,
Oh, I understand that. I understand that.
we don't own that. It's kind of a screwy breakout, but we own
So,
this area here.
So your people, I'm assuming, put this together. This isn't the city's proposal, right? So you put in parking here. So
Right, it's been, I was just showing a representation there of parking.
is that why we asked for wheel stops? Because he put parking there?
Yeah, parking spaces require wheel stops. If they call that storage, it would not need striping or wheel stops.
how many parking spaces does it need?
There's not a parking variance.
No, but I mean, how many does it need? 'Cause it's-
For their
It'll be
operation.
one per 100,000 square feet plus one per vehicle.
So like,
Because it
So
looks
like
like
two.
because it looks like it's a ton of parking.
Yes, bingo.
so what you really is.
That doesn't-
They hadn't marked it as parking.
Can't get everybody all at once.
They asked it.
So really, and he's saying this isn't the current drawing anyway.
Yeah.
No, there's an updated drawing there.
Is that the one we have in our?
Because I think it'll be really important that the plan be stamped so that next year when they go to inspect, they see what's what. And if he's moved something, they'll be in violation again. So I think we need to see a
So
plan today.
the plan is in the packet. And that's what I was asking them to make sure we had the right one. But the other plan allows a semi to turn around in the other lot.
You asking?
No, it does. I'm making a statement. So if you see the other plan. it allows it
With the stops?
With the stops.
Yes, I guess this all could be resolved if you don't show those parking spaces.
Well, yeah,
If you don't need parking, it sounds like your operation, not the bingo, your operation does not need all those parking spaces. Is that
okay,
true?
so let me answer this. Okay, so when I represent this, I think I was asked, but I may have been mistaken that to show where they park, that's why they're dotted lines. But I mean, if I show no parking, but they park there, that they're using that.
That's a problem too.
Well, it depends. If it's for
No.
the bingo parlor that's not even
Yeah.
an established use, it shouldn't show it.
Right.
Well, yeah, I thought for your operation, again, we're laser focused on your operation. We don't care about bingo generally. You know what I mean? We're focused on, we don't care if they park there at midnight or 10 o'clock at night. For your operation, we want to see what's taking place so that we could see your legitimate plan for your salvage operation. And then next year, when you go for an inspection or however they're inspecting, they can see what's what and where it's supposed to be. Now, if they come in there between 9 and 5 and they see you parking where we don't have parking, that's going to probably be a violation. Or if you've moved something or expanded your salvage yard, that's going to be a violation. We don't want to see what happens at 10 o'clock at night because your owner blurs the lines. We want to see what you're requesting and your proposal for your operation exclusively. And are you saying that this is that?
And the only way for anybody to get onto the adjacent property is through your property?
Was because it's one owner.
I believe there's that strip there was provided as an access easement, and also there's a sanitary that runs through there, I believe.
It's a mixed usage. There is one entrance to get to the back area. The whole property is fenced in. the two properties. But the one that you're talking about is fenced into the rear and the east.
Mhm.
And then it would be open to the west, but the west is all fenced in as well.
So on this drawing that we're looking at, it looks like there's parking in the front, right?
There is parking in the front
And in
for the tenants,
Okay, then parking on the side of the building,
that's correct.
and then parking 6 rows of parking next to where the salvage yard is that correct?
Well, that's what's done during the bingo time.
But I mean, but you designated as parking.
Well, it's as he is described, But I mean, if you don't want us to show it,
Can I make a recommendation that you guys take the parking off and just do the minimum amount required for your site and bring it back to us? It'd
okay,
be a much easier for us to approve this.
Yes. And any other guidance, I'm trying to think.
And I'm not sure that there's two sets of lines going down the center of the parcel. Those look like fence lines.
no, those, if you look close to those are property lines. There's 3 properties there.
So that middle line is a separate parcel.
Yes, that is a separate parcel. Mhm.
Okay.
So the salvage yard is your operation?
It's a tenant.
Okay. Does the tenant have an Ohio dealer's license?
I can't say if they do or not. I don't know what they have.
So you're here applying for the salvage yard for your tenant?
Yes.
Is that how that works?
Sure.
Okay. So again, I ask about the,
So the license goes to the operator, but you can apply for any DD variance you want, so it's the owner.
not the variance, but the special permit is what I'm talking about.
Same thing, yeah.
Okay. And so I guess it's not really our arena, but I think I think the state of Ohio requires a dealer's license to operate a salvage yard. That's what I just looked up.
No, City of Columbus Code Enforcement offers a junk and salvage yard license. There may be,
Yeah, I get that, and we're gonna do that potentially, but I think the state of Ohio, like how they license dealers, I was just reading, and I think they do as well. But I guess it's not your problem. We'll see what the state of Ohio says about that.
So before we let you go, can we talk about the shade trees? Where were you, why is that a requested variance?
Because of the truck traffic, and we talked to, the local commission there, and they were okay. They were emphatic that they wanted trees within the green space of the right of way
Okay,
to protect parking, and I don't think that's a problem, right? And then they said, for the trees, they understood about the truck traffic. And they said you can see that there's trees already along the property line, and they said you could plant some trees and shrubs along that edge.
okay. So then why do we have to?
parking lot requires
Oh.
wheel stop device, striping, and shade trees.
So because
Don't
they're
call
putting
it
in a parking lot, yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think that's gonna be your best. Because there's no reason for us to abandon these requirements for your operation, right? You're bringing in this additional bingo, which shouldn't really go into our deliberations about what we should require on the property. So if you wanna just take that parking lot out, since you're not required to have it, I think that's gonna be easier. And then what you do with the land in off times is just what you do. You don't
Your
need to,
recommendation, what we should call that?
just blank space.
The storage.
Yeah, it's just blank space.
And so that'll change the variances that you're requesting, so your application will change slightly.
Yeah, does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay, is that amenable?
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to officially request for the matter to be tabled tonight.
We would request we wouldn't have to request anything though, right? If we got rid of if we just call it storage, right?
Well, you have to come, so you have to table it for tonight so that we don't vote on it.
Oh,
And then you have to come back with your new application.
And a new site plan that could be stamped.
Right,
Okay. With the directive that you given here today.
Correct.
correct.
Now, is there any problem with the setback regulation there? Is,
From the 20 feet to the 5 feet for the storage,
would you,
I don't have a problem with that.
No
Because
problem with that?
it's not butting up against anything, so.
oh, great. All right, well.
Well, what's to your east?
What's that?
It's abutting to whatever's to your east. What is to your east?
The east is the roller rink, right?
So,
But they've got lands.
We're supposed to put in, it's just like you do for any salvage yard, the screening there.
Yeah,
And we're gonna put that in,
okay. And I'd be okay with it.
all right? All right, well, I'll redo the plan and then remove that, and make it clearer for everybody. And,
Thank you.
Resubmit, and we resubmit the variances, is that what we do, or?
yeah. So you work with the city to refine, because you won't have all of these variances anymore. You'll have a limited number, a reduced number, I should say. And you'll have the correct site drawing.
Yep.
That doesn't show the parking lot there.
Okay.
So that'll be final, stamped, so that if code enforcement comes out to review, this is what you're saying you're doing in all these areas.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'll redo that and then resubmit the variances, right, correct?
Mhm.
Is there any other fee? Do we pay another extra? No, okay.
So is there a motion to allow the tabling?
I'll give a motion to allow the tabling.
Second.
Second, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maleko?
Yes.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Chair Paul Bailey?
Yes. Tabling granted, we'll see you when your application gets submitted.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 1025 Oak Street, with applicant, please come forward.
BZA 22-158, 1025 Oak Street is located at the southwest corner of Oak Street and South 21st Street. It's part of the Near East Area Commission, and existing zoning is R3 residential district. The 0.12 acre site is currently developed with a 6-unit apartment building. The site is surrounded on all sides by a mix of single unit and multi-unit dwellings. The applicant proposes to convert the backyard of the property into a paved parking area with 8 parking spaces for tenant use. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the required number of provided parking spaces from 9 to 8 due to the limited amount of space to the rear of the building. Planning does not support the proposal as presented. The Near East Area Plan states that parking needs for residential must be balanced with the need to maintain the historic fabric of the community. Staff notes that the lack of large rear yard parking lots in the area such as the one being proposed, the 8 rear yard parking spaces proposed with 6 backing onto South 21st Street is inconsistent with the guidelines and fabric of the community. For these reasons, planning does not support the proposal as presented. Planning would be supportive of an increased variance, reducing the parking to 4 parking spaces oriented on the south property line facing Elliott Alley. This would allow for 4 additional parking spaces compared to what is currently provided, while still respecting the historic fabric of the community as recommended by the plan. Division of Traffic Management has no comments. The Near East Area Commission recommends approval of this request with the conditions that the applicant cuts back the asphalt overpour into the alley south of the property, fixing the sidewalk on 21st Street, and installs bollards at the south edge of the property to protect parking space number 6 in the site plan. And here is the site plan. Sorry, it took a while to get there. City Department's recommendation is for approval, however. While the existing apartment building does not match the immediately surrounding properties architecturally and in terms of density, the existing use is legitimate and consideration must be given to the needs of that current use. As such, staff can recommend approval as the applicant is bringing the property closer into compliance by adding as much parking as their lot may allow. City staff does recommend the condition that the applicant shall commit to a stamped site plan, signifying that this area here the area not dedicated to parking will remain landscaping, just to honor as much as we can planning's concerns about maintaining yard on this lot.
So
And
but
just one more comment. The conditions that the Near East Area Commission had provided can be considered if the board wishes, though the only condition that the city is recommending would be the one about the stamp site plan and the landscaping.
So walk me through when you say cut back the asphalt overpour into the alley south of the property, where is that?
I believe what the.
That might be able to shed a little light on it.
Okay, okay, one
That's
second
okay.
first though. So this picture's right here that I'm seeing, that's
the alley.
the.
Yes, so the applicant had entered into a hold harmless agreement with the city to allow him to pour the parking lot before getting the variance, and then if the variance is not approved, obviously, since he has the hold harmless agreement, it would be on him to tear it up.
Gotcha, okay.
So that's why
we're
we're
seeing it already done.
Yes,
Okay.
the first pictures were the site before installation.
Okay, that's what I'm
These are
confused,
the,
okay.
yeah. And I assume the overpour that we're talking about is it's just kind of making that edge a little cleaner.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's not the alley.
That's not the alley though.
Oh, that's true.
That's the alley.
That's the alley.
That's what bleeds it.
So yeah, so what was that other picture?
That's the street.
This is 21st, which,
Also the street and the alley.
yes, which
Okay.
technically 21st Street is considered an alley, given its
Yeah, it's real
width.
isn't it?
Yes.
Okay,
At that location, it's an alley.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, sir, can you state your name and whether you've been sworn?
Yeah, Greg Sasanoff, and I was sworn.
Okay, go ahead.
So I guess to start with just the cutting back portion of it,
Mhm.
I was on site when they actually put it in. So the concrete that you see right there, that sidewalk was pretty deteriorated already. And as they were excavating and rolling over it, it just completely crumbled. So instead of having like a major tripping hazard, they put the asphalt up to the concrete, like into any gouges, with the understanding that we were gonna have to replace all of that anyway. So when this was actually done, it was like late November, so we couldn't get concrete poured then, but the idea was once, after we got approval and everything, that we'd have that done. And then in terms of the
The
alley,
concrete to clean up that little edge right there.
yes, so
Okay.
that whole sidewalk, and it's easier to see when you're on site, but it's, I mean, it's wavy, and it's just because it's both, it's
Okay.
original. And then on that back alley,
Mhm.
there was so much overgrowth going over the bricks that, you know, as they excavated it, they started putting stone into it. We didn't really, I don't think they noticed that that was the actual existing street. So they took it as further, or as long as they could, and then I guess taking it out and cutting it is much easier than trying to be precise when you pour it.
Okay.
So that was again, kind of an understood thing as they did it, that we're gonna have to clean this up eventually.
Okay.
Can you tell me, I thought I heard you say planning said no, and you're saying yes?
Yeah, so planning's concern was, again, they don't want to see the entirety of this lot paved. They don't want to see
Is
large.
it paved now?
Well, after the installation, yes, but you can still see this area here. That area is not paved, and that is what we would be obviously holding the applicant to, given, once this, stamp site plan is, if it is approved, signed. So, but planning's big concern there is, matching the character of the surrounding neighborhood. I can go back to the aerial here. I mean, they do have a point. The majority of this neighborhood is a lot of single, unit dwellings and some duplexes. But again, the use is legitimate, so we're trying to balance the needs of the site with the honoring the character of the neighborhood that planning was putting forth. And especially because they recommended that they would be supportive of a further reduction of the parking down to, like, I think it was 4. But that kind of misses the point of why the applicant is even going for this in the first place. They're trying to provide off-street parking because, as I understand it, on-street parking is becoming increasingly difficult to find in Old Town East.
Okay, so with him requesting these parking spaces, it's also required that it be striped.
I believe so, yes.
You believe so?
It is.
Yeah.
The parking lot has
Striped and stopped.
stripe and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We're
Thank-
just not asking for variances.
Got it. Thank you.
So why are you not wanting to provide the landscaping and
You
screening?
can't, there's no.
There's not enough space.
Oh, okay,
There's
so-
existing fence and tree,
No, I guess, I'm sorry, I was talking about,
Along 21st,
yeah,
no room.
There's
no, I'm sorry, whatever that area is you're calling to carve out.
He's gonna do that.
Okay, so
Oh,
that's,
that's grass presently. We could put in any
Okay.
number of things,
Okay.
but yeah, there's no.
I think that the planning is saying they want landscaping and because between the street, traditionally between the street and the parking itself,
oh.
there's just no room.
Because that's
for
where the cars are gonna pull in.
it. Right.
Right,
That's the way.
okay.
And
Okay.
we also find that, that particular recommendation, the, screening along this, along 21st is mitigated because on the other side of that street, there is a decent amount of screening already.
Well, if 21st were wider there and not technically or, reasonably considered an alley, I would require it.
Mhm.
But the fact that it is basically an alley at that location,
Fair.
it just makes sense to pull in and pull out.
Definitely.
Is there anybody here that wants to speak about this application? Do we have any, I'm sorry, did I miss a hand? Oh, sorry, you gotta come up and, that's right. State your name for the record.
Victor Moody, and I live at 1017 Oak Street,
Were you sworn in earlier?
right now.
Okay. You promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please say I do.
I do.
Okay, go ahead with your testimony.
Okay, I would like, hopefully, and from what I see, this construction is just about 2 houses down from me.
Okay.
And what I would like to see is that you have a tree, basically, for the tenants that you're gonna have there. That tree that's in the alleyway. You have another picture of this.
Let me go to the, street view real quick.
When is it current?
Are we talking about,
Okay,
are we talking about this tree?
it's one of those trees, and I think it's that tree, the next one.
Okay.
And it's basically a hazard because it's all tangled up in the wires and everything back there. Sooner or later, when the wind is gonna pick up, it's gonna yank those wires and there's gonna be a fire or something. And it should be taken care of. And that's just my opinion, but I've seen enough that know that that can happen. So you might want to consider removing that tree. And hopefully, I don't know if you're gonna have additional lighting back there. But it'd be nice because the tenants, with that tree and everything now, once the leaves and everything, it's just dark back there. Even, and the light can't get to the parking lot. So you might want to consider additional lighting. That's all I have to ask.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to add a condition. I mean, we're talking about the overpour on the alley. It needs to also be identified on the sidewalk side as well. That was.
I believe.
It does say fix the sidewalk on 21st Street. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You wanna say something different?
Well, no, I guess fixing it, I hope that suffices. That's kind of,
We can clarify with the, commission and make sure that, we shore that up.
okay, thanks.
Then there's another condition about bollards on the south edge of the property to protect parking space number 6. You agree with that?
Yes, so it's right at the corner and they said if you can fit them and find them, that would be their preference.
Okay.
I haven't spoken to anybody about it yet, so I'm
Okay.
not sure how feasible.
That might be an issue for.
Yeah, as one comment on bollards, if they go in, you'll need to make sure that A, they're not in the right of way. If they have to be on private property, wouldn't permit bollards in the right of way. And then I think secondly, this is probably minor, but just to make sure that they're not in the maneuvering area for the alley as well.
Okay.
The alley along the backside of your property is narrower than 20 feet. So.
That was one question I had when they originally said it is, there's garbage trucks that come back there, so it's like,
It's gonna be
leave a little space
Yeah.
for them, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a condition, so you said you haven't looked into it yet. If we vote this, that's gonna be a requirement.
Okay.
I mean, you tell us if you,
No, that's fine. I mean, I just haven't spoken to any, I mean, I don't,
okay,
I haven't found anyone that does that kind of work. I thought I was gonna come before here first, so.
okay.
Madam Chair, and if you do approve this with those conditions and it turns out it doesn't, it's not feasible, it'd be in the right of way, or would cause any kind of congestion, you can always come back and ask for that condition to be removed.
Okay.
Can somebody, for my ignorance, tell me what a bollard is?
Just like the concrete base, just protects it.
A tall, yeah, okay, yeah. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I'll call a question.
With the condition.
With the condition.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Malacco?
Yes.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Paul Bailey?
Yes, granted, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
1285 Zettler Road, the applicant, please come forward. No applicant for Zettler Road?
There's someone in the back or outside. I guess that's not them outside. You want to call that one at the end?
1725 Bryden Road, the applicant, please come forward. Oh, okay. You promised to testimony against tonight with the truth, nothing but the truth, please said I do.
I do.
Okay, your name is, sir?
Trevor Gables.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 1725 Bryden Road is located at the southeast corner of Bryden Road and Stoddard Avenue. The site is on R3 residential and is located within the Near East Area Commission. The 0.16 acre site is developed with a 2,904 square foot single unit dwelling in a residential neighborhood. Surrounding uses are a mix of single and two unit residential dwellings. The applicant proposes to construct a 270 square foot, one-story room addition in the rear of the existing dwelling. It requests a variance to reduce the rear yard from 25% to 22%. The Near East Area Plan recommends that new additions be distinguishable from the original structure and recessed or offset to avoid looking like an extension. Division of Traffic Management has no comments, and the Near East Area Commission recommends approval. City staff can recommend approval as the proposal is consistent with the Near East Area Plan guidelines, and we're not asking for any conditions.
Okay, do you have anything else to add to the application?
Pretty cut and dry, pretty simple.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Is there anybody here that wants to speak about this application? Okay. Are you ready?
I'll call a question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Malacco?
Yes.
Chair Paul Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted, thank you.
Thank you.
7260 Long Road.
Sounds like confusing.
Can you state your name for the night you were sworn in?
Yes, thank you. My name is Robert Taguccio. Have been sworn in. This is my client Karen Woodbine.
And I've been sworn in. Okay, can you go ahead and sign the sign-in sheets up there, please?
Sorry.
BZA 23-008, 7260 Long Road is located on the east side of Long Road, approximately 243 feet north of Abbey Trail Drive. It is zone R rural and is part of the Greater Southeast Area Commission. The 10.22 acre site is developed with a single unit dwelling and 3 pole barns. Surrounding uses are primarily single unit dwellings. The applicant proposes to split the existing parcel. The parcel on the east will be 5.255 acres and will retain the single unit dwelling. The parcel on the east will be 3.248 acres and will retain the pole barns. A variance is being requested to reduce the minimum lot size in the rural district from 5 acres to 3.24 acres. Planning has no comment on the proposal as the Northwest Area Plan does not address the matter. Division of Traffic Management has no comments on the requested variance. And the Greater Southeast Area Commission recommends approval of the request. City's recommendation is approval. Although the Northeast Area Plan does not address the issue of lot size, staff can recommend approval of the requested variance because the proposed lots are consistent with the other surrounding lots in terms of lot size, setbacks, and lot coverage.
Okay, do you have anything else to add to this application?
I think just one clarification, and I thank the board for its time, is that it's actually the eastern parcel would be 5.255 acres and the western parcel would be the 3.248.
Where the house is. Yeah.
Where the dwelling is on the western side of that drawing. And of course, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The house is sitting on the 3.248.
Yes.
Okay, so we still need to reduce the minimum lot area from 5 acres to 3.2. Okay,
Yes,
anything else?
just thanking the board for its time.
Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair, I do, just for clarification, the background, it says 10.22 acres, is it, what I think of the map you had, shows 8.5? So we're missing some acreage. That's not correct.
It is 8.5.
Okay, that's what it
It's
was.
not 10.
That's what I was, okay.
You're correct.
Yeah, just took my chronicles from the auditor.
Just little things. That's all I had.
Is there anybody here that wants to speak about this application? Hearing none, are we ready to call the question?
I'll call a question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Malaka?
Yes.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Chair Pond Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted, thank you.
Thank you so much.
We don't get that.
Everyone.
Made my night.
1721 West Third Avenue. Hello, you can state your names and whether you were sworn in, please.
I'm Tom Pendry, I'm an architect on this project, have been sworn in.
Okay.
Bart Griffin, I'm the owner of the project. I have been sworn in.
Okay, thank you.
All right, BZA 23-009 at 1721 West Third Avenue is located on the south side of West Third Avenue, approximately 80 feet west of Elmwood Avenue. It is part of the 5th by Northwest Area Commission, and the existing zoning is C4 Commercial District. The 0.15 acre site is developed with an existing single unit dwelling with a non-conforming building setback and non-conforming driveway that is currently being used as a commercial business. Surrounding uses include offices and commercial businesses on the south side of West Third Avenue, east and west of this site. Some of them established in similar single unit dwellings, an eating and drinking establishment directly east of the site, and single unit dwellings that retain their residential use north and south of the site. The applicant proposes to construct a second-story office expansion at the rear of the property with ground level parking underneath. In order to do so, the applicant must legitimize the non-conforming building setback and driveway by requesting a variance to reduce the building setback from 30 feet to 12.5 feet, as well as a reduction of the minimum allowable driveway width and aisle width from 20 feet to 18 feet. Planning supports this proposal as it is generally consistent with the 5th by Northwest Area Plan and Columbus citywide planning policies design guidelines. The 5th by Northwest Area Plan states that new additions should be compatible with adjacent building designs in terms of height, width, setback, etc. Staff note the revised drawings and support the revised roof connection between the proposed and existing structures. That is what we are seeing here in this elevation. The Division of Traffic Management states that the unusual drive alignment that would appear to be required to accommodate what would be the standard 20-foot width would appear to incur risk of atypical driver behavior that may outweigh the benefits of providing the full standard driveway width. In consideration of the existing curb inlet that constrains the reasonable area that can be utilized for a driveway, the low number of parking spaces that would be utilizing this driveway, and the unusual alignment needed to otherwise accommodate a full standard driveway width for this site, staff can support the 18-foot width. The Division of Traffic Management would be supportive of the associated variance request to reduce the minimum driveway width to 18 feet, as well as a potential aisle width variance. The 5th by Northwest Area Commission recommends approval of this variance. Likewise, City Department's recommendation is that of approval. As traffic has stated, the aisle and driveway width variances are necessitated, as expanding them to the code compliant 20 feet would create a greater potential traffic safety hazard. Likewise, the final elevations presented to planning are consistent with the applicable area design guidelines. As such, staff can recommend approval. We do recommend the condition that the applicant shall commit to a stamped set of elevations to memorialize what planning is looking for in terms of roof pitch, height, setback, etc. Chair.
Okay, do you have anything to add to this application?
You know, I'd like to ask a question. On this notice, the requests, it lists 3 variances, but on my original application, I also asked for another variance, which is not listed on here.
What's that, sir?
And it is CC 3391.05B for expansion to a non-conforming structure exceeding 50% of the current size.
That's not something that the board can vary. That's a standard that forces them to come to the BZA. Otherwise, they can do this by right. It was less than 50%. So that's not a variance. That's a standard that brings you here.
Okay.
Gave me a heart attack.
Oh, you're fine. I didn't see that number on here. So
Quite all right, quite all right.
I should have called you.
No, it's all good.
That's fine. Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant? Is there anybody here that wishes to speak about this application? Seeing none. Oh, this is the final plan, and you're comfortable with stamping this for the record?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Malacco?
Yes.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah.
Chair Paul Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Huh?
Nobody else says that.
Like a
I
tap?
think it's almost like walking.
It's like going right.
Yes, like, I think it's your
Mike's
chair,
working.
it's Mike's chair.
Are you squeaking in your chair?
Yes, it is.
Let me.
I think what it is this. Well.
Was that? So what?
That's the one.
What's third?
I would think we're here. If it's me.
1403 South 4th Street. Will the applicant please come forward?
I'm Robert Carson, up this morning.
Okay,
And I'm Joey Devine, up this morning.
okay, can you sign your names on the sign sheets there? Thank you.
BZA 23-014-1403 South 4th Street, located on the west side of South 4th Street, approximately 110 feet northeast at Jenkins Avenue. The site is zoned R2F residential and is zoned located in the Columbus South Side Area Commission. The 0.1 acre site is currently undeveloped. Surrounding uses include single unit dwellings to the north, west, and south, and vacant commercial buildings to the east. The applicant proposes to construct a 2-story, 2-unit dwelling and is requesting variance to reduce the number of required parking spaces from 4 to 3. Planning states that they support the proposal as presented. The south side plan states that new homes should include useful front porches, generally at least 8 feet deep, that span the majority of the front of the house. While the proposed porch does not span the majority of the front of the house, it does have similar proportions to neighboring properties, and the proposal overall is compatible with design and character of adjacent nearby homes with respect to height, width, and setback. This is also compatible with C2P2, which states that the design and character of new development, including homes, additions, and garages, should be appropriate and based on the principal and nearby structures in terms of height, width, setbacks, lot coverage, roof pitch. Planning is also supportive of the requested parking reduction based on the availability of on-street parking and access to transit. Due to this, planning supports the proposal as presented. The Division of Traffic Management requested that the applicant consider the existing utility pole in proximity to the southwest corner of the property in the placement of the proposed parking spaces. And after being provided further information and images, all division of traffic management comments were resolved. The Columbus Southside Area Commission recommends approval of the requested variance, and staff recommends approval of the requested variance because the proposed structure is compatible with the South Side plan as well as C2P2 design guidelines. The requested variance is negligible, especially when taking into consideration the availability of street parking and access to nearby transit.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything to add to the application?
Matt, happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Is there anybody here that wants to speak about this application? I agree with staff that this is a minimal reduction. Are we ready to call the question?
I'll call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Morta?
Yes, nice houses.
Mayor Palm Bailey?
Yes, variance granted. Thank you
Very much. Thank you.
4600 International Gateway, will the applicant please step forward?
Chris Fleming, Coordinated Engineering, have been sworn in.
Okay,
Eric Walsh, have been sworn in.
okay, can you sign your names? Thank you.
BZA 23-015 46 International Gateway is located on the south side of International Gateway, approximately 800 feet east of Stelzer Road. It is zoned M manufacturing and is not part of any area commission. The site is developed with John Glenn International Airport and its accessory parking facilities. The applicant proposes an expansion of the red parking lot, which is located southwest of the main terminal. Variances are being requested to reduce the minimum parking lot width from 9 feet to 8.5 feet and to not provide parking lot trees. Planning is in full support of the proposal. Staff continue to encourage decorative fencing as consistent with the plan recommendations, but recognizes existing standards and continuation of these standards, and therefore do not condition the fencing on being a different material. Division of Traffic Management has no comments regarding the request. Staff recommends approval. Staff can recommend approval of, as the variances are not eligible and the proposed site expansion is consistent and designed with the surrounding parking facilities. Staff note that the platted parking lot trees at the airport could potentially present a hazard to aircraft due to the attraction of wildlife to the trees and that the height of the trees could interfere with air traffic. Gotcha.
That is your opinion about the trees, or that's documented somewhere that that's the case?
I believe that's documented. It's in their FAA guidance.
Okay.
So what do you do? Like, that is a crazy amount of just parking space, like to mitigate for environmental consideration. That's what I'm thinking.
So it's all stormwater management in accordance with the city laws.
I'm talking about the sun and the heat and all of that. I mean, I've been to parking lots and airports around the country and they have something.
We're displacing, if these are parking spaces that have been, will be displaced with future projects at the airport. So we're actually taking, Blue Lot and other places and moving it here. So this isn't additional parking. This is just replacement of existing parking.
That didn't answer my question.
I know, but it matches what the existing parking is. We're not changing the style or doing anything.
I get that, but here's an opportunity to maybe make something a little bit better.
This, with our proximity to where the runways are, it's a concern to have any kind of trees.
I might be talking about taking out, 3 spots here, 3 spots there. I'm talking about something like that. I'm not talking about moving something closer to a runway. You don't have to have that many parking spaces.
We do.
Why?
Because this is what will be displaced with future projects. We need those parking spaces back.
I'm not okay with it. I think you can come up with a better solution. It's not environmentally friendly. It may be for stormwater, but it's not It's not a sustainable project. I think that somebody that had looked at this from a sustainable standpoint would look at it much differently. And I would disagree with my colleague to say that these are negligible. To go from 466 to 0 is major.
I would assume this is part of the, I know that
This is where the extension is going, just FYI.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you own trees.
right, so having trees, I don't.
I get it. If it's not trees, there's something. This isn't the first application of its kind. I think I don't do engineering. I'm not an architect, but I know that there's a better way.
But I gotta assume this is a first step to a master plan. I know that the airport is going under major renovations and changes out there. And I'm assuming this is one phase of it.
That's correct.
I'm not, yes.
I understand all of that.
So I don't know how you know, they have to move parcels. I don't even know if this is a, permanent measure. I mean, no one will know until the final plans are done.
Was permanent when we say okay.
Yeah.
And I would ask you, my colleague, and your profession as an architect, if I told you I wanted to build a sustainable parking lot and I couldn't have trees, what would you recommend?
Very much you can do without trees, maybe some green space, but we're taking out green space to park it, so I'm not sure how you do that. I mean, the only way they're gonna pick up, if they're required to have the number of spaces they are, all we're gonna wind up with is more asphalt. And we'll have green patches, but I think I would rather,
Going from 8.5 to 9, or reducing from 9 to 8.5 actually reduces the payment we need on the site, right? Because we're narrower parking spaces.
I get that.
But let's talk about that. Is that in the climate that we live in with SUVs getting bigger and bigger, is a smaller parking space
That's actually consistent with most of the rest of the airport.
is already at 8.5?
and if you look at parking garages, most of them are.
Yeah, they're reducing.
8.5.
But I just feel like the environmental impact, it could be better. And because we're starting something new, we could think about it and do it better. I feel like we've just approached it with a very limited lens. And I don't have enough time to Google it and figure it out.
Is there anybody that wants to speak about this application? Okay, do we have any other questions for the applicant? Are we ready to call the question?
I'll call a question.
Questions been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones? Yes. Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Chair Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted. Thank you. 5524 North Campbellton Road. Hello, gentlemen. Can you state your names, whether you were sworn in?
Andrew Gardner, and I was not sworn in.
Okay,
Anthony Fernaro, I'm sworn in.
okay, sir. You too, okay? Do you promise that the testimony you give tonight be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you.
BZA 23-016. 5524 North Hamilton Road is located on the east side of North Hamilton Road, approximately 700 feet south of Preserve Boulevard. The site is zoned LC for commercial and is located within the Northland Community Council. The 2.32 acre site is developed with a 23,675 square foot indoor athletic facility. Surrounding the site are a variety of commercial uses to the north, south, and west. To the east are single unit residential dwellings. The applicant proposes to construct a 4,986 square foot addition to the front of the existing building and are requesting a variance to reduce the total number of parking spaces from 115 to 105. The Northland Development Standards state that parking lot trees shall be planted in islands at the end of every parking aisle at the rate of 1 tree per 10 parking spaces. In addition, the plan states that landscape buffering should be established between residential and non-residential uses. To this point, staff requests that the applicant explore opportunities to increase screening along the east side of the site to provide a buffer for existing adjacent single-family homes. Additionally, staff requests that the applicant explore opportunities to provide parking lot trees in order to conform to code standards. Staff would support placing additional trees elsewhere on site if new tree islands are not feasible. Staff encourages the applicant to provide street trees along the southern portion of the entrance to the site in coordination with the city forester. And additionally, the development standards state that commercial developments shall provide safe and convenient pedestrian sidewalk from the facility to the frontage sidewalk. To this point, staff encourages the applicant to explore opportunities to add an additional sidewalk. The Division of Traffic Management notes that a minimum of 5 ADA parking spaces would be required for this development. And I do see a representative from Northland is here, so I'll let him speak to their comment. City staff is recommending approval as the applicant has accommodated each of the city staff requests. So everything I just listed in the planning comments on your site plan in the packet have been identified. They have added a 5th ADA parking space, added a landscape buffer between their commercial use and the neighboring residential use, added parking lot trees in a manner that would not reduce parking, and provided a pedestrian access from the city's sidewalks. So the city staff is recommending approval with the condition that the site plan be stamped to memorialize the landscaping commitments. And that, Madam Chair, we'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. Do you have anything to add about the application?
It's fairly straightforward. The only thing I'll add in is we are proposing some additional off-site parking to offset our requested reduction. We're unable to combine our parcels here because they're different tax districts, but we control that front parcel. It's actually our access, and we're proposing an additional 12 spaces there to meet the count that we're required to have. We just, because it's not on our parcel where the building expansion is, that's why we're here.
So that's the 10, that differential between 115 and 105, is that correct? So-
Yeah, we're proposing 12 on that offsite front parcel.
What's gonna be there?
So the building right now it used to be Laser Craze. It's empty now. Our client is renovating it into, it's an indoor basketball, volleyball, pickleball facility for club and rec teams. I think he's gonna have some batting cages in there, things like that.
But you think you'll be parked at 115 at a given time?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
You've got teams and people coming to watch and play and things like that.
Okay. So 10 spaces where? Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Do we have anybody here that wants to speak about the application? Please come forward, sir. Can one of you guys let him have a seat at the mic?
My name is Dave Paul. I chair the Northland Community Council Development Committee. I did actually have a question perhaps for the applicant if I could. And that is when we met with them, I believe March 29th, we were talking about a reduction from 115 to 107. As he's here today, we're talking about a reduction from 115 to 105. But they also had 12 spaces available, as he's explained, in the adjoining parcel. And on that basis, our committee understood what they were trying to accomplish, but I would just like to clarify whether this has changed since they met with us in March.
Did they have the ADAs, the additional ADA spots?
Yeah, we, per staff's,
Wait, 1 second. Let him finish with his testimony.
In any case, I believe, based on what I suspect the answer will be, our committee would still stand in support of this application, even with that variation. The vote was 16-0 with one extension. The motion was made by one of our communities that's actually located very close to the site. So I think that we could recommend approval. We did have a condition which I believe has been met, and that was the addition of a 4th ADA compliant parking space, which may reflect what we're talking about in the change in numbers, and also to indicate the location and number of bicycle parking routes. Does staff know if those have been incorporated?
Yeah, in the packet the board members have, they are added parking, there are bicycle parking racks.
Okay, and the 4th ADA space?
Yes.
5th ADA space.
When we were talking about it, we were adding a 4th ADA compliant space.
Right, but the Division of Traffic Management wanted 5.
Okay.
So we trumped you.
And we're fine, and we're fine. So our committee does support the application. We appreciate your time. Any questions for me, or shall I let him back up here?
He can come back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to confirm the variation in the parking from what we discussed with Northland was to add that additional ADA space.
Okay. Okay. Is there anybody else that wants to speak about this application? Do we have any other questions for the applicant?
I'll call the question.
Questions been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Malika?
Yes.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Plummer Bailey?
Yes, variance granted, thank you.
Thanks.
217 Erie Road.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Rutland County, I was not sworn.
Can you raise your right hand? You promise that the testimony you give tonight be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Thank you.
All right. BZA 23 is -018 at 217 Erie Road is located on the south side of Erie Road, approximately 840 feet west of Milton Avenue. It's part of the Clintonville Area Commission and existing zoning is R3 residential. The 0.23 acre site is currently developed with a single unit dwelling. Surrounding uses include similar single unit dwellings to the north, south, east, and west. The applicant proposes to modify an existing detached garage to include cold storage space in an attic above the garage. The applicant thus requires a variance to increase the allowable height for a detached garage from 18 feet to 24 feet 10 inches. The allowable height of the garage was previously increased to 18 feet from 15 feet, which is the code compliant height. In a BZA case that was passed in 2001. Planning supports the proposal as presented. The Clintonville Neighborhood Plan recommends that garage heights be permitted to exceed the maximum height allowable if it is otherwise architecturally compatible with the primary house. Staff has reviewed the proposal and determined that the proposed garage is consistent with this guideline and is therefore in full support. Division of Traffic Management has no comments. Glenville Area Commission recommends disapproval of this request. The City Department's recommendation, however, is one of approval. Staff can recommend approval as the garage roof height and pitch architecturally match those of the primary structure. We do recommend the condition that a set of elevation drawings be stamped to ensure that the roof pitch of the garage match that of the dwelling. This would be that drawing here. Cheryl.
Don't we usually add a condition that it should not be habitable space?
Certainly.
And I have a question, Dane.
Mm-hmm.
You say it's for cold storage, and above there's a reference to construct an unconditioned storage. I'm not familiar with that language.
So the idea it would just be used for storing like, I mean, I have one, for instance, in my garage where it's just you store, lumber, that sort of thing, in an area above the garage. It wouldn't be a habitable space.
Why is it referred to as cold storage?
I guess a more appropriate term would be the unconditioned space, like unconditioned in the sense of like, there's no HVAC, there's no like plumbing there. It's just an area above the garage where you could store something, not something that, a person could be living in.
I mean, it seems unnecessary.
Fair.
And I don't want to overstep, but if that's the new thing that we say, I guess I just have to get around it. But it's just unusual to call it cold storage.
We could certainly change the wording. I can see your point because it does reflect like it sounds like refrigeration.
Yeah, I thought he was going to put not dead bodies up there, but require refrigeration, and then it said unconditioned. It was just. I think it's a distinction that makes a difference and probably should be considered.
Certainly. No, I think that's the point well taken.
Okay, do you have anything to add about the application?
Just short and sweet. As Dave mentioned, we've been residents for the Clintonville neighborhood for 20 years. We love it there, but as any urban neighborhood, its space is at a premium. So this variance is requested just to expand our storage space.
Why did Clintonville say no?
Unfortunately, it was Easter weekend and I wasn't able to attend the meeting. So we did get passed by the zoning board, which I was able to attend, CAC. But then when I was when it went to the full board, I wasn't able to make it to the travel.
Any feedback on that? Or do we see a vote count or anything, just in case they didn't?
Yeah, it's on the machine.
Yeah, it should be in the packet.
Should have packaged on a sheet.
I was able to listen to it after the fact. Several of the members voted no, mainly because I wasn't there, but also because some privacy concerns to appease those. There are windows shown on the elevations on the south and the east. Certainly happy to remove those. They were just there for aesthetic reasons.
I don't know that I'm asking, and you're providing some clarity. I can't imagine they say no because you're not there. But I see the privacy concerns. We've had people that elevate their garages or space, and then you can see into the next person's yard, so.
Absolutely.
But if it's storage and it's not habitable.
Right.
He's saying he put it there for aesthetics to match the.
I think the aesthetics are outweigh,
Sure.
you know.
One other-
Thinking that you're gonna snoop.
Sorry to interrupt. One other point of clarification, though, this board has approved many of these over the last several years. Two in particular, even on my street. So there is certainly precedent from this board to.
Well, we approve them routinely, so it's not about that, but we like to honor people's
Absolutely.
concerns, and everyone doesn't look into somebody else's yard.
Right.
We've had some specifically that have, and we've taken that into consideration,
Sure.
so.
Is there anybody here that wants to speak about this application? Please come forward. Good afternoon. Can you state your name, please, and whether or not you were sworn in?
McLean Funk, and I was not.
Okay, you promise the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
My wife and I actually just moved into 226 Winthrop, which is right behind, and he addressed my concern. It was the window in the back impeding on our privacy.
Okay.
That was it. If there's no window, as long as there's no ladder and mess in my yard, I could care less what it does. Honestly.
Did you remove the window?
We have not since.
Yeah,
It's just.
So
Oh, we certainly can. Yeah.
So in that case, the set of elevations that we do get stamped will have to be revised to remove that window then.
I don't know that we've asked him to remove the window. I mean, we're just hearing
Fair.
things right now.
If we do condition that.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
Did you attend the Clintonville Area Commission?
I did, yes.
Was that main concern raised by, because this is multiple neighbors' voice concern?
I was one of the, yeah, my
Privacy.
wife was, but yes.
And privacy was the main concern?
That's it, yeah.
Do you recall any other issues raised by the neighbors?
No, that was the biggest thing I think were windows, and then the last one that happened to go up, there were ladders and mess in the other backyard, a couple doors down. I was unaware of that. My other neighbor has pictures of it, but I was more concerned about the window.
Well, while it was being constructed?
While it
or-
was being constructed.
Gotcha, okay.
But
So
again,
you've already built this?
no, there's one, two doors down.
Doors down, there's one other.
Very similar case to down.
So, I mean, a two-story house next door to a two-story house, they have windows on the side. What is the invasion of privacy?
Honestly, well, I mean, one, we're significantly further from each other from house to house. I mean, he's got a garage, a pool, and a house. We don't look back to back from window to window. It's not, we don't live in Chicago.
Again, I'm
But,
saying
yeah.
houses side by side have windows on both sides, and there's not necessarily an intrusion on privacy. So I was just asking, what's the difference in this case?
I mean, from that purely, I wouldn't say there's much of any. I guess that house already exists, so those windows are already there. I bought the house knowing that.
Gotcha.
I moved in February. I didn't know there was gonna be an addition in the back where there would be windows overlooking my backyard. So that was my concern, is that, I mean, I bought it knowing that those windows were there. I didn't know that another one was going to go up. So if I have a say in it, I prefer if he's gonna build it just to not have a window.
Understood, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Sir, can you sign in, please?
Oh,
Okay, thank you. Can you come forward, please?
Throw everything around, I guess. Dave Kirkpatrick, I'm at 232 Winthrop, which is the next,
Were you sworn in?
no,
Okay. Can you raise your right hand and
thank you.
promise that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, nothing but the truth? Please state I do.
Do.
Okay. Go ahead with your testimony, sir.
My concern was, basically when this last one went in, I've got a couple of pictures here. This is something we didn't really want because it sort of boxes in the whole yard. You're sitting there in a sea of buildings.
This is something that was
And
on,
that's one with windows. If you see what I'm talking about, I've got a couple others here that if you'd like to look at them. But that's definitely something that we wouldn't like. That probably should have never been approved. There was a carriage house there for years, and I think it had a grandfathered in, excuse me, for the height that they attained.
and your opposition is to the height or to the windows?
Well, it's right up, backed up against the fence, and if you notice on that, there's 3 ladders there in 3 yards. One next door to me, one next door to him, and one in the yard of the property. That shouldn't be.
We agree. That's one of the areas that we talk about, a cross-maintenance access agreement, so that people, I'm assuming that this is here to support the repair to that. And that's in a different yard on a different street.
There's a lot of tall garages.
So-
It's just, we don't need something like, that's a little much.
So, again, my question is about your opposition to this project is based on the height?
Well, that has something to do with it.
Okay, I just want you to state what your opposition is. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
There's a, picture here, it shows that we're gonna be at another 7 feet.
5.
This said 24.
Correct, but it's currently at 18, so 5'10", if I do my math right, is that right?
Going to 24, 10, something.
6 feet, 10 inches.
Yeah. So that's 7 feet. I mean, that's a considerable amount. This one picture shows, the 3 garages, and it's already taller than ours. Of course, there's, there's smaller garages. But the back of, Steve, that's probably this.
Oh, sure.
Anything like.
Oh, certainly. With, speaking of the neighbor 2 houses down, they showed you with the
ladders.
with the ladders, the construction in, is that your yard?
No, that's my next door neighbor.
Oh, gotcha.
This is your garage here.
Mhm.
That's mine, that's mine.
That's right, yep.
And
Probably
another
should let
7
the
feet on
back and
top of
forth.
that.
Yes, so you need to address your comments to us.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. So, anything else?
I think I showed you about everything. I don't know. You get a look at the ladders and how close it was to the property line.
Yeah, but we can't do anything about that issue.
No, it's dead in the water, but I don't want, we just don't want another one.
I get it. Okay,
Fine,
that's it?
yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Can you sign your name on that sign-in sheet right there, please?
So you're building on an existing garage.
We are leaving the existing walls.
So
Cross off, putting new.
the back of your garage, where is it in relation to the property line?
I don't have, is that on the site plan? I wanna say it's 15. 20. It says 20. 20, okay.
What does that mean? 20 feet away?
Oh, right there?
Okay.
20-foot setback.
So Jamie, in your tenure, we've approved lots of these. Can you recall, is this pushing the envelope at 20, nearing 24, 25 feet?
There's no rear setback for a garage.
I'm referring to the height.
Just,
Staff has consistently recommended approval of the garage height if the pitch of the garage matches the pitch of the dwelling. So if a 25-foot high garage was needed to match that pitch, staff and the board have approved it.
Yeah, okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
And you said it's 20 feet back from the edge of the line.
correct.
So
It looks
definitely
like
off the property.
Yes, off the property line, so that's pretty
Yes.
significant. On the side property line, where is it sitting?
Looks like 40 feet away.
Okay, so enough that it's not gonna have,
You could paint.
you can paint or do any kind of maintenance without having this ladder issue on somebody else's property.
Yeah, reasonably, I think.
Would agree.
Just point of clarification, the 1-2 house is down is a foot higher, 2-3.
Sorry, say that a little bit louder.
The one that was approved that's 2 houses down is a foot higher than I'm requesting.
What is your profession? I'm just curious.
I'm in the same field as.
He's an architect.
Okay, because you've been edging to make your case pretty significantly, so hats off to you for that.
Okay, so do we have any other questions?
No, and I would approve it with, I think the windows are fine. I think the aesthetics, in my opinion, would outweigh
I agree.
the visual issue because houses like this are just tight, just the way they are.
And it is 20 feet from the backyard.
Yeah, certainly.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak? Okay, seeing none.
I'll call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Chair Pompeo?
I'm sorry, yes, we are stamping the drawings. I just want to make sure.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
I am able to remove the window to appease neighbors' concerns, or is it locked in with that?
It's locked in, she signed it.
Yeah.
Yes.
The rear one, is that one that,
I mean, aesthetically, it doesn't change anything because nobody sees it except for the backyard neighbor. So I'd be okay removing the back window, but not the side window.
just trying to be a good neighbor?
Yep, that's fine.
Certainly. We can
So,
hold off on getting this.
Hold off on stamping it and you'll bring the city another version.
Sure, I can just email you a copy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Fantastic.
okay.
Excellent. Appreciate that.
That's right.
So,
You're done.
but order's good, it's.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
What's that?
Don't order that window.
Right?
Okay.
I haven't ordered anything.
Madam Chair.
We're gonna take a 5-minute hygiene break. No. Say hygiene. Water.
I'm not saying it's all.
No. It's not that,
Oh,
Fish it.
sign. It'll be.
You look like our diocese.
What?
This one, case 3.
Try to, he's on his blue seat. Oh, they're gonna try to settle. We're not waiting. I really. We have good cases.
2, really, right?
Well.
I didn't show.
Oh, right. Well, 4. No, there's 3 left, plus him.
Oh, there's 3 left.
Yeah,
Why did I think there was?
11, 12, and 13.
Oh, I don't know what I did with 11. Maybe that's my issue.
Well, 11, 12, 13, and 3.
I have 3 shows.
Yeah. You probably. He's the board secretary. I'm just expecting to. Waiting for us. He said. See, I didn't get by 6:30. He was over there 10 minutes or so. What's your airport one? Like one. The Grand Thursday after airport. Or, they were listed on there. It was just insane. Yeah, it's just a very, very recognize. Well, watermark that, yeah, I think that she knows, I see that. Thank you. That board is on watermark. Yeah, rest of it. But I need my iPod, well, I recognize the guys that I recognize. So they have to. That's how they, and that's our engineers for Ringo. Oh. Yeah. Just, or dudes. You look way too in the area. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my biggest fear.
Yeah, what do you, how do you?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Good safety call. No pronouns. Yeah.
I listen.
We felt weapons for the week. Yeah. With you.
I did not want to stop. It was all smooth.
It's always.
Yes. It's fine. Jesus.
Let's put volleyball planning in.
Now tell me.
Start switching out.
When I was talking to my daughter,
How many things? Yes. So we paying the ass off. There's gonna be any controversy. They do. Oh, no, that's what you know. It's easy.
Could be very silent and go. He's never at this college, it's two. He's learning to swim.
This is just a little bit. It's nice. That's not like. My own version. It's like every. I'm done with like the release of this. He doesn't know what change that. The 2 hours of voicing. It would not be.
We ready? Ready? Okay, we're back. 3494 North High Street. Will the applicant please come forward? Can you state your names, whether you were sworn in?
John Stevenson, I'm the attorney for the applicant, and I have been sworn.
Kevin Reitenbaugh, I have not been sworn.
Okay, may I raise your right hand? You promise that the testimony you tonight is the truth, nothing but the truth. Please state you do.
I do.
Thank you. And both of you guys can sign in the sign-in sheet. Thank you.
PCA 23-019 at 3494 North High Street is located on the northeast corner of Oakland Park Avenue and North High Street. It's part of the Clintonville Area Commission, and the existing zoning is C4 commercial. The 0.16 acre site is currently developed with a commercial building with living space on the second floor. Surrounding uses include similar commercial buildings to the north and west, offices to the south, and single unit dwellings to the east. The applicant proposes to expand an existing eating and drinking establishment that currently resides on the first floor of the building, including the addition of a patio on the south side of the building facing Oakland Park Avenue. The applicant is requesting a reduction in the number of additional parking spaces that would be required as a result of the expansion from 7 additional spaces to no additional spaces. It should be noted there is an existing deficiency in the amount of parking provided for the various uses that share the parking lot in question, which would result in a total parking deficiency, if this were approved, of 15 spaces across all uses after the expansion. Planning generally supports the proposal, but requests additional bike parking be provided to offset the parking reduction. The Clintonville neighborhood plan states that parking reductions may be appropriate for mixed-use projects along the High Street corridor and areas served by transit. Parking needs should be balanced with the goal of reducing the development's impact on the community, as well as the goal of creating walkable and bikeable neighborhoods which encourage the use of transit. Staff notes the development's location along the High Street corridor, which is a major transit corridor served by multiple bus lines. The proposed sidewalk dining also respects the character of the community. For these reasons, planning supports the proposal, but again requests additional bike parking be provided to offset the parking reduction. The Division of Traffic Management has advised the applicant that any proposed areas of patios within the public sidewalk would require a separate sidewalk dining lease application to be approved by the Department of Public Service. The Clintonville Area Commission recommends approval of this request. City Department's recommendation is that of approval. Staff can recommend approval as the proposed expansion matches the character of the Clintonville neighborhood. Furthermore, its location along High Street in a walkable area mitigates the need for ample car-specific parking, as multiple other modes of transportation are supported in the area. We do agree with the condition that the applicant shall install additional bike parking on the site to help mitigate the parking deficiency as planning had recommended. Sure.
Okay, do you have a way to install additional bike parking?
Yeah, we'll commit to installing the additional bike.
Okay.
And one other note, we did enter into a parking agreement with a neighboring church to mitigate some of the effects of the variance.
Okay.
How many parking spots does that get you, the church?
7.
So you have parking now,
Correct. Yep.
and it's deficient for all of the uses that share it.
Correct, but it's existing, so there's no, per the adjustment that you make in the code, it might be deficient to current code standards, but it's not deficient because it's an existing use. And then when you do a change in use, you have to do the difference between the intensities of the existing use and the more intensive use, which is where the new parking requirement comes in.
So how many, and so it's an expansion.
An expansion of the use that's existing into an existing part of the building.
Expansion of the use.
So if you go back to so right now, kind of the middle building right there, that's the existing eating and drinking establishment. And then if you'll go to the right where it says Shim's Custom Tailoring, that's the space that's currently vacant and that the applicant would be expanding into.
For more drinking and eating.
Correct, yeah.
And how many tabletops will we have in there?
How many?
Oh, for the new space, we were planning on having 5 to 6 new tabletops there.
And outdoors.
And outdoors, with the outdoors, we were planning on having 3 tables out there, so a total of possibly 9.
And how late are you open?
We, per our lease, we can only be open till 9 o'clock.
Okay, that changes things.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's too intense, way too intense. Without any reasonable mitigation, we can't count your parking lease. We can't.
Oh, understood.
So
yeah, just good faith effort.
But the fact that you close at 9, this is what most of the people that live in the neighborhoods complain about is, at night they can't park because the restaurant goers, et cetera, are creeping into the neighborhood, and this shouldn't create too much of a burden on that because you won't be open until midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning. Thank you.
What they want. But I mean, you're saying any uses could.
Oh, yeah. So when we approve this, it's for any drinking establishment. They could be open till 2 a.m. Or would it have to change? Would they have to come in again and ask?
No, I think technically because that would run with the land, so yeah.
Ah. You have a liquor license?
Right now, we just have, beer on Sunday sales.
Boy. I thought that thank you.
Is there anybody here that wants to speak about this application? Okay. Do we have any other questions from the board?
Don't call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Chair Palmer Bailey?
Yes, variance is granted, thank you.
Thank you.
4087 Burnell Circle. Hello, can you state your names and whether you've been sworn in?
I'm Joanne Goldhand. I'm the attorney for the applicant, and I've been sworn in. Thank you.
I'm Tom Philman, and I'm representing the property, and I have been sworn.
Okay, great. You can sign your names on the sign-in sheets that are there, thank you.
4087 Burnell Circle is located on the southeast corner of Morse and Westerville Road. It is zoned AR 12 apartment residential and is part of the northeast area commission. The site is developed with an apartment complex. Surrounding uses are a public golf course to the south, an automotive dealer to the north, a mix of single and multi-unit dwellings to the east and west. The applicant is requesting variances to legitimize the location of a dumpster and storage facility. Planning has no comment on this proposal. The northeast area plan does not address the issue of setback restriction. Division of Traffic Management had no comment, and the Northeast Area Commission recommended approval of this request. Staff is recommending approval, although the Northeast Area Plan does not address the issue of setback reductions. Staff can recommend approval of the requested variances. Staff note that the variances are necessary because of the site is split into several parcels, and the dumpster and bulk storage area is appropriately located. Properly screened.
Okay, do you have anything to add to this application?
Not really, but, if you want an explanation, it looks a little busy over there, so I'm happy to explain
ahead.
what we're talking about. Okay. So, so this is the dumpster, this is the city, golf course. This is the dumpster that encroaches into a setback. This is the property line, that's the setback, and the dumpster enclosure encroaches a bit. We told the neighborhood commission that we would move it out so that the dumpster enclosure doesn't encroach, so we are actually asking for this variance. Wasn't actually approved by the neighborhood commission. This is
So you only have one variance you're requesting, but you're
Right.
saying that's not it?
That's not it, right, that's what I'm trying to say, it is here. It there posts the setback. So this one, is a flat bulk storage area, that is right on the, property line. There's an easement that runs along the property line, which allows that bulk storage area to be served by the city's bulk storage pickup people. If we move it, inside to satisfy the setback, then it would not be able to be served by the bulk storage pickup. There would be no easement that would right to it. Another way, we have to pave to get there, and then we'd be violating the.
So so what we're looking at, that's where you would like the dumpster to be, right?
Yeah, we don't want to move it. There's not a dumpster there. The dumpster is this one.
Yeah.
So that we're gonna move it out of the setback. This is just a flat area for putting things.
I'm confused.
I can tell you.
Yeah.
Can you pull up the knot downs on the next one, right there?
There.
That concrete slab you see has been there since 2011. And that is where there are tenants, 257 units, 257 units there on that complex. they've set their bulk storage there.
On that platform.
On that platform.
Okay.
That concrete or that container is not there. The picture had it there. It's since has been removed.
Okay,
So what your commission, I think, in the hearing said was they would like to have some type of greenery put around that concrete slab to hide it.
okay, thank you. And I want to make sure that you're clear. You said the area commission approved something. They don't approve anything.
Well, I mean, they voted favorably to it.
Yeah, they recommend.
For the one, well, it's not like she said they approved one and she wanted us to do the other one. That's what I.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just saying that we only asked them for approval for that one because we figured out a way around
The other.
the other one.
Got it.
We're asking you for the same thing we asked them.
Okay.
Move the enclosure out of the setback.
Understood. Understood. Thank you.
Tear up the concrete.
Right,
Gotcha, okay,
but this can't be fixed.
okay.
So you guys are proposing any kind of screening around that?
Yeah, that's some vegetation.
You have pictures of it or?
No, we were waiting to get it approved and then we were gonna submit a new drawing with the pictures so that we could get it stamped.
Once we approve it, we don't, okay.
The recommendation from the other, I don't know the terms, the recommendation from the other hearing was put some shrubbery around it. Because what's gonna happen is that both dump truck's gonna go in there and knock it around a little bit. So they didn't want screening with the fence because it'll get hit by the articulating arm.
It was just typically you would do that and present it here and we'd say yes and we'd stamp the site plan.
Right, well, but we submitted, we didn't know what they were gonna recommend, so that just came up during the last,
Okay.
and they didn't ask for a plan.
So we'll condition it with, screening, what, on 3 sides or we
Yes,
2
2
sides?
sides.
3 side screening, okay.
I've got a question for the applicants. on
Go ahead.
this. Have you guys had this reviewed by refuse to be an unenclosed bulk storage area?
They've been using it for,
Well, I understand that, but I know this site plan has just recently come through for review for final site compliance. And typically Title 13 requires bulk storage areas to be an enclosed area with an opening that's 10 feet wide, 8 by 10 minimum size. So I just wanted to make sure that city refuse is going to service this site, they're going to require an enclosure in the bulk storage area. I don't believe they'll allow it to be an unenclosed space. Even with like screening around an enclosure, I think they're still going to require that. So I
would need a variance for.
well, that's a Title 13 requirement for city refuse service. The board wouldn't be able to vary you from that, I don't believe.
I think what she's saying is because it's in the right of way, right?
It's not in the right of way, but it is in
It's in the
setback, so.
Yeah, and you would need the variance for the enclosure to be in the setback.
Right, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Sorry.
In 2000, for history purposes, in 2011, when we put that there, it's because they were dumping, the tenants were dumping there, and it's getting muddy. And the truck was driving up that alleyway and causing more, they go down, they grab a chunk of grass with it. So we put the slab in. We had been spending millions of dollars there over the last 10, 15 years. And in 2011, the code enforcement officer, I forget her name because it was 2011. She came through, she said, look, I'm not going to cite you. You guys are doing a great job. We know you're bringing the property up. Just don't put an enclosure around it because it's in the setback. So that's why we never put an enclosure around. Now, we have had our site plan reviewed to bring it up. And it went through did it not go through the departments and have all the comments?
Yeah, we submitted it.
Sure.
It's gone through the process.
But refuse wouldn't look at it.
Yeah, refuse doesn't look at the
Oh, they
sites
don't?
for refuse.
Okay.
Yes, that's why I would caution you to check with them directly to make sure. If they've been servicing it, that's one thing. If you guys go through and have the site plan approved and it doesn't have that in there, that could cause some issues for them. That's my only concern. I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
We have DSA as the architect that's dealing with it.
Yeah.
And if they make you put an enclosure around it, you might not need the landscape.
Yeah.
No, it seems one or the other.
Yeah,
But, so.
so it's one or the other, the enclosure or the landscape.
Right.
That's what.
And the commission, the area commission had that same thought, but they thought, like, they didn't want to ask us to build something in the setback, which is like the thing you're not supposed to do. So that's why we all thought that the vegetation worked better.
Okay, so we have a condition that the area will be landscaped or screened on 3 sides. Okay, is there anybody here to speak about this application? Do we have any other questions from the board?
Call the question with the additional
Condition.
condition.
Okay. Questions been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Chair Paul Bailey?
Yes, variance granted, thank you.
Thank you.
2350 Morse Road. Can you state your names and whether you've been sworn in?
Yes, my name is John Lipnuck. I'm the head of large projects for Ferguson Construction. We're the GC on this project, and yes, I've been sworn.
Okay.
I'm Ashley Fowler. I'm with Mannequin Smith, the engineer, and I've been sworn.
Thank you.
2350 Morse Road is located on the north side of Morse Road, approximately 475 feet west of Cleveland Avenue. Is zone C4 Commercial District and located in the Northland Community Council. The 6.08 acre site is currently developed with a middle school. The surrounding uses include residential to the north, urgent care and commercial shopping plaza to the west, used car dealer and City Columbus fuel station to the south, and used car dealer to the east. The applicant proposes to construct an addition to the existing structure and is requesting a variance to reduce the building setback from 110 feet from the street right-of-way line to 70 feet. Planning fully supports the proposal. The Northland Area Plan recommends buildings enhance the pedestrian experience and should provide features such as sidewalks. Plan also states that building should be designed to address the street. The revised site plan and proposed building elevations are consistent with plan recommendations. With the right-of-way dedication exception approval and the updated traffic circulation plan, all comments from the Division of Traffic Management have been addressed. The Northland Community Council recommends approval of requested variance with the condition that the text of the statement of support and the site plan be revised to reflect that the variance requested from 3356.11A is modified from 12 feet from the future right-of-way per MMTP to 70 feet from existing right-of-way with approval of the waiver of right-of-way dedication recommended by the Division of Traffic Management. That condition was satisfied with the right-of-way dedication being approved. Staff can recommend approval of the requested variance because it will legitimize an existing non-conforming issue that was brought to their attention during the preliminary site compliance review. Staff is recommending condition that all parcels that are part of this property are to be combined into one lot before submitting for zoning clearance.
Okay, are you in agreement with the condition about the parcels being combined?
Yes.
Okay. And anything else to add about this application?
No, I think it was well covered.
Yeah, the only thing is just in terms of the student body, there's an existing mobile classroom right now to accommodate the student body. So this expansion is vital for their operations for the school to accommodate their current student load.
Okay. Is there anybody here to speak about this application?
I don't need to speak except to say that as staff has
Sir,
said.
can you come up and state your name, please?
We don't know.
Dave Paul, the Northland Community Council, thank you, I have been sworn. We met with Ms. Fowler on February 22nd. As staff has noted, the only condition that we applied to obtain the committee's support was that the application be updated. It was actually at the point they were talking about getting the waiver of right-of-way dedication that they came to meet with us. So the application we initially looked at had a slightly different plan. But we understood what they were proposing. The committee voted 16-0 to support the application. We support it tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Ms. Egelhoff?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Maleka?
Yes.
Chair Paul Bailey?
Yes. Variance is granted, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your patience. Like students. Thank you.
1285 Zettler Road.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
He's a
You should
creature.
know what it is now.
Now I know what it is. Not won't drive me crazy.
Hello, sir. Can you state your name and whether you've been sworn in?
Yes, my name's Tim Carl, and I'm the Director of Facilities at Bishop Hartley High School.
Okay, were you sworn in earlier?
I was not.
Okay, can you raise your right hand? You promise that the testimony tonight will be truth, nothing but the truth. Please state I do.
I do.
Okay, thank you.
BZA 22-167, 1285 Zettler Road is located on the southwest corner of East Livingston Avenue and Zettler Road. It is part of the Mid-East Area Commission, and it is on SR Suburban Residential. The 17.55 acre site is developed with an educational facility and recreational complexes. Surrounding uses are primarily residential. The applicant proposes to construct a 10-foot tall, 230-foot long privacy fence with ballistic materials to prevent stray gunfire from entering their campus. A variance is being requested to reduce the building setback line of a privacy fence along Livingston Avenue from 60 feet to 10 feet. Planning has no comment as neither the Livingston East Area Plan nor C2P2 policies address this particular matter. The Division of Traffic Management states that right-of-way dedication of 60 feet from the center line of East Livingston Avenue will be required per CCC 4309.17. It is believed that this requirement will result in a gross inequity. An exception may be requested. The Mid-East Area Commission recommends approval of this request. City Department is recommending approval. Although the Livingston East Area Plan does not address the issue of fence height, staff can recommend approval of the requested variances. Staff recognizes that the applicant has demonstrated a unique hardship, and the variances are necessary for the safety of the students and faculty of an educational facility. Additionally, staff note that the right-of-way dedication exemption has been filed and is currently under review with the Division of Traffic Management. The conditions that we are recommending is that the setback reduction only applies to the fence and nothing else.
So the Division of Traffic Management approves an exception to the 60-foot right of way?
They're in the process of reviewing, but it's not all the way done. But they're.
So then why is it coming to us?
What?
That's standard when you want to build something that goes closer to the street. I think for Livingston Main Street, most of the thoroughfares, they have that as a standard thing that they do.
Okay. Anything to add to this application?
No, that all pretty much covers what we're looking for.
10-foot high fence.
For safety.
And it's already there, right?
I'm sorry?
Are you adding a fence or is that the fence?
The fence is already there. So what we did was we had a hold harmless covenant prepared so we could build it, because what happened, there were 3 different instances where gunfire were coming into the building. All right. And one time the students were in there testing. So whenever we put the ballistic material around against the wrought iron fence, after that, something went over the top of it and through the building. So at that point, we decided to put the material within the building as well. So we pulled all the sheeting off, put it in the building to protect the students while in there. But we still had the concern of the student athletes on the softball field. So we put the 10-foot fence up, put it on the ballistic material on it. And
that's that draped thing there?
The drape was there to cover the material. I'm open, we did it because it was gray and we wanted it to not stick out. In other words, we didn't want anybody to know what it was for fear that it could be stolen or it could draw attention to wanting to try something. So we've been keeping it quiet, but that is basically fence netting that you put up around the field for privacy, and we hooked it up to the barrier around it just to cover it.
Mm-hmm. I think you did a good job of trying to disguise it and not make it an eyesore.
We tried.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we talked about, we could still stain the fence. Obviously, you can't do that right at the beginning when you build them because you have to let it dry out. But we talked about doing that this summer to blend it in more. In which case we could take the black stuff back down and just paint the material.
It's a shame you have to do it.
It is a shame, it really is.
Anybody here to speak about this application? No one is here.
I'll call the question.
Question's been called, please call the roll.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Malaka?
Yes.
Ms. Engelhoff?
Yes.
Chair Palmgren?
Yes, variance granted. Thank you.
That's me.
I even-
Oh, okay.
That's really.